YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. We've got the 1220 millimeter Ranger from FMS. What a sweet trainer to start with. It's gonna help get you in the air. It's got the Reflex V2 installed, and basically all you have to provide is 4 AA batteries and a little bit of patience. You gotta put the thing together. It screws together, no glue, and it's just a super fun plane. It's got a spring-loaded nose gear, which is ugly as sin, and yet it's gonna help you get the job done. So here we go. The winds are a little bit confused today. If you're a brand new pilot and you're thinking about trying to maiden your plane, pick a great day, make sure it's dead calm. You might want a little bit of cloud cover so that you don't get blinded as bad. And also make sure you have your eyes protected with something like sunglasses and an awesome super in-style visor like I wear. Yes. All right, here we go. I am in the top setting. This is gonna be stabilization. This is off, and that's auto leveling. You might wanna start in auto leveling. That'd be like a beginner mode. This would be like what we'd call maybe an expert mode, and then this is stabilized mode, so it's kind of in the middle. That's the way I generally fly. And you wanna fly into the wind, but we are getting just very light winds this direction, so we'll just go ahead and go down the runway. Okay, here goes nothing. Gets off the ground in no time, 1300 milliamp hour, 3S battery. Beautiful looking flight performance so far. Stabilizer's working great. And just rolling it around and flying it. Boy, that thing flies fantastic. So if you guys are brand new to the hobby and you want to fly, but you don't have any experience and you're not sure where to start, the Ranger 1220 is an amazing place to be. Flying just fantastically. We've got all 4 channels of control. We've got throttle, we've got elevator, we've got ailerons, and then of course we've got the rudder. And as you can see, all of those channels of control are gonna give you full control and authority over the direction your plane's going, how fast it's going there, and then what you wanna do once you get there. Very good experience, okay? Now, if you're afraid of losing orientation and you think you want a little bit of help, then what this plane comes with is called a Reflex V2, which is a stabilizer and flight controller that's gonna give you both stabilization, like I'm using now to help defeat some of the impact of thermals and wind. And then you can also turn on auto leveling, which is not currently on, but I'll turn it on here in a minute. Okay, so you see I'm at an angle, there's auto leveling. See? Now it's just going in a straight line. As soon as I let go of the stick, it's gonna straighten out the plane. Pulling up, it's gonna limit my bank angles, and then as soon as I yaw and let go, it's gonna go back to straight flight, okay? So basically it's going to limit both your up, it's gonna limit your down, it's gonna limit your roll, so that you can't flip it upside down, okay? So it's basically gonna take away all the different parameters that people like to get into trouble with. And then when you're ready to land, watch this, guys. I'm gonna come out of throttle. I'm just gonna glide it. I'm just kind of pointing it the direction I wanna go. I'm not even really doing anything. Now I'm gonna pull back on the elevator just a little bit. Look at that, guys. Amazing, right? Okay, back in the air, I can't wait. Great flying plane into stabilizer only. And so now I'm in mostly full control with just a little bit of suggestion from the flight controller. So I can do things like that. So guys, I gotta say, super impressed with how well this flies. Gotta be the best ready to fly playing plane. The ready to fly flying plane that we've ever had from FMS. We've had a number of them, not been super thrilled with their performance as compared to their counterparts in the plug and play arena. That, of course, giving us the flexibility to use our Spectrum transmitter. As you guys know, I'm a Spectrum guy. But I'm just gonna tell you this right now, this plane does it all. It's doing a very good job of what it does. It's also looking nice doing it, I might add, except for that fugly nose gear, which I gotta say, if you're gonna have an ugly something on a nose gear, I can tolerate that, especially on a beginner airplane, because here's the thing, people need help on the nose gear because that's gonna be one of the first things to break. So FMS, thank you for making that nose gear so ugly. We're gonna slip, 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 and down on the mains. So guys, this plane is so much fun to fly. It's actually quite easy to fly. And I love that the controls are so greasy and smooth because I have flown just in the last 10 days, actually less than 10 days, I flew another FMS offering that I didn't like half as much, and it was supposed to be a trainer as well. I can just say this trainer combo, this particular transmitter, seems to do a little better than the white one that slips out of your hand and looks like a bar of soap. So I gotta say, folks, this thing does it. 3 steps over to your right, toward me. Thank you. So if you guys are in the market for a brand new, don't know what the heck you're doing sort of plane, this plane, as you can see, by the way, I just want to show you the wind. Look at the wind, folks. Not like we're doing this in dead calm, folks. You see that thing? It's moving around like crazy, okay? And look at that plane. It's just getting around like it doesn't even care. Look at this. Beginner plane, are you kidding me? 50% stick, okay? That thing's got power. 1300 3S does the job all day long, and it does really, really look good. I loved the 1220 millimeter Ranger that we did a few years ago as a plug and fly, and I'm loving this as a ready to fly. So they definitely have that reflex V2, really engineered nicely for this flight envelope. And I definitely think as a beginner plane, it would be a great choice. So if you guys are new in the market and you're thinking, hey, I really want that J11 or I really want that SU27, just please don't do it. Get something like this. Get something you can handle. Get something that's still probably you're going to crash anyway, and yet you'll be able to get some pieces from the cornfield and put it back together. And yes, we'll help you with that too here on Brian Phillips RC, because that's what we do. We crash, fly, repeat, learn, and get a little bit better each time. So as I crash, you'll notice that my crashes get more and more obscene and stupid. But seriously though, guys, we love flying. We love helping teach people how to do some of these really kind of basic things within the RC community. And we know that there's a lot of people out there that just need a helping hand, and we're here for them. So the truth is, if you are in that specialty group where you just need a little bit of help, or slip, 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 crab and square. Look at this, guys. We're taking off in 5 to 10 mile an hour crosswinds in a trainer and just having a good old time doing it, folks. I love flying this plane. I love that they don't compromise on the flight control surfaces. I love that it looks good. I love that it flies good. I love that it uses a 1300 3S instead of some huge pack that's expensive to charge. By the way, we did install an aftermarket, not included, voltage alarm in here, which goes for about $5, guys. So if you don't have one, think about getting one when you get this plane. Also, get some China glue. China glue is necessary. You're gonna crash, you might as well have it on hand. Look at that thing sink, look at that thing sink, look at that thing sink. Oh yes. Guys, I love flying this plane, it's so much fun. Why do I love flying this plane so much? I don't know, just because it does such a great job. It kind of reminds me of the T28 1.1, except it's even easier than that. And here's the thing, the T28 1.1, as much as I love that plane, it is not a ready to fly. You're not gonna find that on a lot of the American brands. And that's because remote ID, just in case you were wondering. But let's just say this, guys. I love this plane. I think it's gonna be good, even if you get it as a plug and fly. as opposed to a ready to fly, you're gonna like it even better as a plug and fly. Oh, we're beeping. Do you hear the beepage?
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing I was afraid of is I thought we might be a little bit tail heavy based on the CG markings, which are 50 to 60. That's incredible. That's a huge range, guys. even screwing around like that. Look at this. See that wiggle, wiggle, wiggle on the nose gear? Not only is it fugly, but it works. Did you see how tight I just turned that thing around?
Just gonna say.
It was like on its own wheelbase.
Yep.
Let's see if we can do that again here. Let's bring it over here and let's see how tight you can turn. Oh, that is awesome, guys.
It is almost.
Why do all planes not turn that sharp? And it's so weird because then it flies great too.
Yeah.
Now, I know some of you guys are probably thinking 1300 3S, that was kind of a short flight. Keep in mind, we did our entire radio setup on this battery. Which consists of basically going through testing and making sure that the control surface is moving in the right directions. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop in a 2200 3S Smart Pack just to show you that you can get the job done. We're gonna do it right now.
Well, and you got about almost 10 minutes of flight time on that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. 10 minutes on it.
Because you didn't.
No, I want the 2200.
You didn't talk very much at the beginning.
I think a 2200 is a more popular size that people are gonna have.
Is it gonna go in there though?
I don't know. Let's find out. If it doesn't go in there, then we'll change our plan. Now this is a Gen 1, so I can use my voltage alarm again. Oh, and then let's talk about where our voltages are once we get this out, okay? So you'll notice there's an XT60, and we're at 10.9, 3.64, 3.65, and 3.64. So that's really good. It's maybe just a little bit below storage charge on the Predator 1300 3S. Nothing wrong with that. Totally respectable experience. No puffage. It's a little bit warm. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to take this 2200 Gen 1. We're going to plug this voltage alarm in. This thing does not come with the plane. Whoops. Sorry. Pulled an Esteban. Okay. So we're at 12.6. Good. All right. So now I'm just going to drop this in here. And I want to try to put the flat toward the front. In case we need to try to work out the CG, okay, which we will, I believe, okay. We'll just kind of strap this in a little bit. We've got our shelf liner in there to help us hold it. Now there's no throttle cut on here, so double check your stick is down, and then this will just cram together. There it is. And we're just gonna give it a minute to kind of initiate. It does have a slow startup, so don't be surprised if that happens on your plane, guys. Okay, so we're good now. So we can tuck this down here. Once it's done dancing, you're good to go. And you can see our little shelf liner has worked fine. But what I want to do is I want to just tidy everything up and just slap that around there. And you're like, you didn't even feed it through the thing. Yeah, who cares? Okay, so we're just going to slide this up under there. Now, what I want to do is I want to quick check the CG because that is considerably larger battery. So the camera crew is going to hold my transmitter carefully. And I'm going to reach under here. I'm going to bounce it on these 2 points. So on the back hole, it's leaning slightly nose heavy. And on the front hole, it's leaning slightly tail heavy. So it's literally perfect. And with the 2200 3S, we should get considerably more flight time. But we'll find out. Sometimes that can be deceiving. Okay, here we go. Whatever. That looks like as good as any other way to take off.
Sure, why not?
So you can see it's doing just fine. That's 50% stick input. Now keep in mind, 2200 3S, it just means that you have more capacity. It's the same number of cells, so you're operating on the same voltage. You just have a little bit more power to consume throughout your flight. So that 2200 milliamps speaks to capacity, not voltage. Voltage is what's going to produce more speed. Granted, you engineer the engine, or not the engine, but the motor differently. Okay, now let's try doing a couple of touch and goes with this wind now that it's going down the runway. Okay, we'll bring it in here real steep on the one side of the cherry tree, avoiding the eagle killing zone. Okay. Boy, it flies a lot heavier now. Oh man, look at that crab. Probably should have been crabbing a little bit longer. So as you can see, we're really having to fly the wind now. And folks, if you're trying to learn to fly on a day like today, just maybe don't wait until it calms down, okay? Wait till the perfect opportunity, folks. You have to learn when you can. Look at this crab we have to do. Crazy. And that's why I love this plane, because it is truly a trainer. It's very forgiving, and you can still do things like this. Inside out loops are very hard on airframes. You actually have to have a lot of power to go inside out like that. See that? Inside out. That means you're actually working it, guys. Okay? So if you're not used to flying radio controlled airplanes, you probably don't understand what you don't understand. And so we're gonna help you understand that by being part of Brian Phillips RC. Oh, watch this, we have vultures. So we're gonna bring it down to planet Earth again and try to get a nice crab pass and see if we can get this thing to touch down. Maybe we can get a one-wheel landing or something. Right over the top of the cherry tree. Look at that, guys. Beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So if you guys are new to the channel, you're here on Brian Phillips RC, where we teach you what we can teach you in our very short videos. If you like the long format content where people actually try to teach you something, you'll love Brian Phillips RC. So please subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and come back for more. There's tons of new content here. We've done something like 70 something odd videos this year. We've done thousands of videos over the course of the years. Let's see if we can get grass hops. Way too fast. We're gonna try for grass hops on this next pass.
Okay.
The wind has definitely picked up a lot. And by the way, I gotta say the 2200 is considerably heavier. I'm actually liking it a lot better on 1300 3S. It's just a lot easier to control. I don't know if you guys can tell, but there is quite a shadow being cast by the sun, which is super nice. Makes it look cool, and it gives you a good idea of your speed. So if you're ever curious how fast you're going and you're having trouble coordinating your speed, figuring it out, just look at the shadows. See the shadows? It'll help you figure out how far out you are, okay? Now slowing down. Lots of slipping, lots of slipping. Still have to get around certain obstructions here on this property. Oh man, the ground effect killed me that time. Boy, that wind is really making it difficult. I'm doing a different line this time.
Okay.
I'm gonna go all the way up and around Eagle Killing Zone, and we're gonna try hitting it from this opening here.
Oh, okay.
Lots of turbulence over the top of these trees, so I'm gonna have to bring it in under power though. Let's see what we can do. Ooh, that's dangerous, and yet we're doing it anyway for you guys. Doing a little pumping. There we go, there we go. Nope, not gonna get it. Camera crew, other side. Right there. So now for those of you that aren't pilots and don't have any skills for flying, you may not understand how challenging it can sometimes be to get a plane to come down in such a tight spot. But what happens is, normally when you're flying, you have to slow the plane down. And what's the best way to slow a plane down? Go up. Well, what are you doing when you're landing? You're not going up most of the time, you're going down. So what happens to a plane that goes down? It speeds up. So in order to slow the plane down, you can go sideways like this, and you can still point that direction and fly, and that's called a slip. The other thing you can do is you can deploy flaps, and they'll create extra drag, just like opening a door on the vehicle. It's gonna create drag, or sticking your hand out the window, it's gonna create drag. The other thing that the flaps do is they change the shape of the airfoil, and they allow the plane to slow down without stalling. So it reduces the stall speed, it increases the drag, and thus it slows the plane down. Even though it actually doesn't slow the plane down, you choose to slow the plane down. You can speed the plane up if you wanted. You just eventually rip the flaps off. Well, there's no flaps on this plane, so how do you slow it down? Well, you can do that slip. You can also bring it in for a very, very long approach. Well, look what's over there, guys. Those trees are big. So what I'm gonna do is I'll show you another way to do it, but I gotta flip it up on its mains. Let's look at the damage. Is there any damage? Is there any damage? Well, let's put it back on its mains. Looks like the spinner popped off, okay? So as you can see, there's nothing damaged there. It just popped off, okay? So we'll just pop that back on. And then let's go ahead and put this back on the runway. Now, you want to take off into the wind, but as you can see, we're with the wind. So we'll have to back taxi, and then we can turn it around, or we can just take off with the wind. If you go back to where you were, that'd be great.
Okay.
Quiet. Okay, and then this thing turns on a dime. Okay, back to where we were. All right, so we're giving into the throttle, get everything alive, and then roll, and just fly it on out. So what else you can do is if you have a tighter spot to land in, is you can go out and you can take turns and you can go in circles and you can use up altitude. But a lot of times it's harder to do this for a beginner pilot because it takes a little bit more skill. But you see what's happened now, I'm lower to the ground. But for me, I have a couple of obstructions I have to fight with too. Not the least of which is we have our anti-UPS stick at the end of the runway. Now you guys might not be able to see it very good right now, but there is a stick down there and I have to avoid it. Now the other thing is that's nice about doing circles like this. Let's say you enter your final here. You're trying to get into final, you go into this corkscrew, keep in your throttle, just keep flying the plane, and you can flare to slow it down. And that's where you pull back on the stick. Now this is just flying level. Now when I flare, it goes up, right? Because I have enough throttle. Now imagine what would happen if I'm coming down the runway and I flare. I'll do this above the runway. Okay, so I'm trying to get down to the runway to land. Now I'm gonna level off, I'm out of throttle, and what happens when I flare? It slows down, but I don't wanna crash, so I gotta get into the throttle hard. You see that? So that's what flaring does. Now, if you're in ground effect, which is where you're a couple of wing lengths from the ground, you're gonna have an extra little bit of lift that you get. And that little extra bit of lift and cushion is from compressing air into the ground between you, the airfoil, and the ground. And also spatial awareness is something that you probably will find out really quick is easier said than done when you're flying. Trying to use up every inch of the runway there. And so as you can see, this plane does it really well. And I'm gonna try to show you another approach, okay? So here's another way you can do it. You can go out further. Now watch for the shadow over the trees. If you see it, you'll be lucky. See, I'm way past that furthest, darkest green tree. Watch this, coming in. We're gonna get a nice little approach here, okay? See that nice approach? Now I don't have to jank at the last second and I can get in there and flare it. And I'm full up on my elevator, as you can see. Just trying to slow it down by turning. Almost got it. So the idea is there's a bunch of different ways to skin a cat. And as you learn to fly, one of the biggest difficulties is what do I do now that I'm in the air? Well, if you're brand new, you would go into auto leveling and you would just let the throttle out altogether. Make sure you're pointed into the wind. I've got a big windicator here, which would consist of it's called a kite tail. Mm-hmm. But in our case, it could be a windsock. It could be just literally a piece of fabric. It could be other, flags like an actual American flag or, your state flag or whatever that's flying on a building. And then that would give you an indication of the wind. Well, in our case, I can tell not only the amplitude, but the direction, and I can tell when there's a change in it. But you can't see thermals. And when you get on a hot, sunny day like this, you're gonna have thermals. And so over the top of every one of these darker tree lines, you're gonna have extra heat energy that's lifting up. And that's why you see birds that are up here soaring around, which we saw them earlier. Now they've moved on to a different spot, but over the top of the black surface of our roof. over the top of the road, you're gonna have thermals, and you'll actually be picked up by them and then let down when you come out of it. So you gotta mix all these different weird skills together to control the aircraft. That's why it's so much fun. That's why you wanna do it, guys, because it's not easy. It's not, you don't do it because it's easy, you do it because it's fun. And if you're looking for, you know, something that's easy, just watch TV or watch Brian Phillips RC on YouTube. That's super easy. So we still think that you're gonna enjoy this enough to make the work worthwhile. So why don't we go ahead and fly some more while we talk, if you wanna pause it. So guys, we're gonna take off. The wind is, you know, really calmed down, so we'll take off this way now. So I guess really what I'm trying to say is, if you're brand new to the hobby or you're thinking about it and you're just kind of, you know, looking at the different options that are available and you're like, man, Brian, there's a lot of great options. I really love jets. I love the F-14. You know, I watched Top Gun and now I want an F-18. Come on, a step or two. Well, those are all cool things and I'm really glad you like them. But this plane is the type of plane that's gonna really help teach you to fly. And what you need when you're a brand new pilot is not an F-14. It is not an F-18, although an F-18 would be relatively easy to fly. In our experience, an F-14 would actually not be. There's a lot of things that you gotta get down before you can handle a complex plane like that. Not the least of which is retracts. Not the least of which is, you know, variable geometry wings. That gets really complicated. But I'm gonna just tell you this right now. If you can't master this plane, you're definitely not gonna fly an F-14. So the reality is, what I want you to do is I want you to just start thinking about this. Just think, hey, is this plane good enough to satisfy my needs to get in the air? And I'm gonna answer the question for you. It is, and you should get one. And how do you get one? You follow it. There's a link in the video description below. You can order one there. You'll help support Brian Phillips RC and what we do here on this channel, which is help people get in the air. And we also help people to determine whether or not items are worth getting. That's a lot of what we do here anymore. It used to be more about modifications and now it's more about whether or not they're worth even considering. And the truth is, I don't want to have to modify planes. I just want them to come out of the box and be good. And the truth is, this one is good. And here's the thing, I really like it. I think you guys are gonna enjoy it. And so for that reason, I really hope you'll consider following the links and buying one. Remember, if you can't buy one because you're overseas, or you've already got this plane, or you wanna buy something similar but not this one, then that's fine too. We have tons of links below and we have tons of videos. Those videos are easily searched on brianphillipsrc.com, our domain, or you can just go to the playlists. They're all organized in playlists here on Brian Phillips RC, and you can check out what we have right there. If you're not sure what plane you're looking for, but you know what type you're looking for, we have those organized on Brian Phillips RC for your easy viewing. Watch this bird.
That's a big bird.
Talking about thermals, this guy's thermaling. By the way, that bird is probably twice as big as my plane, just to let you know. So like, you see him? Oh yeah. He's like, leave me alone. So folks, if you're wanting to support us, but you can't buy this plane, you don't want to buy another plane, we have Patreon and PayPal available, as well as members.
Super thanks.
Super thanks. What else?
That's it.
Woo!
I have a question as a beginner pilot.
Yeah.
When you're doing your takeoffs, are you having to control a lot? It seems like it's tracking really straight.
It's very much tracking straight.
Okay.
I actually was amazed by how well, once you get the wheels down, it just goes. Which, I mean, that's not normal. You can get that, but it's unusual.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed I have to really fight to get it down the runway because of the direction of the wind. Because we have that wind is about 15 degrees to 20 degrees off of square from the runway.
Yeah.
And so I'm having to fight in that regard. And I'm having to really slip a lot to try to lose altitude. But then once you get it in here, look at this, guys. On mains, no problem. and then just really easy time getting that thing around. And then let's talk about takeoff distances real quick, because the camera crew is concerned her phone is gonna overheat, and I am too. I don't know if we can take off with such a short runway, but yes, we can. We just answered it. That's a 37-foot wide approach. And so that means if you can take off in less than 40 feet, that is a really short takeoff. Now, I don't think you're gonna be able to land in that distance, but we'll try. If I can get it, I'd be real happy. We've got wind on our side this time.
Need to back up.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
You're good right there. I'm gonna overshoot, I can already tell. So I'm gonna porpoise and see if I can. Ooh, holy cow, I almost got it, folks. So that is an incredible range of different possibilities. This Ranger, and imagine half court basketball here. Okay, this would be like almost 3/4 of a court. So if you're flying from a small court, whether it's 2 basketball courts side by side or a tennis court without a tennis net in the middle, the problem is you got to watch out for fences. You know, if the fences are tall, they're going to prevent that. But we just love flying. This thing is going to go on for a long time. I'm afraid our camera's going to overheat and I won't get a chance to wrap things up. But here's what I'm going to tell you. This Ranger 1220 is an amazing choice. Even in the ready to fly, it seems to be good. And I'm going to tell you this, we have not always been impressed with the ready to flies from any of the brands because they always seem to be inferior in terms of controls. I feel like this thing is flying just about as good as what you're going to get on a bind and fly setup. The difference is, of course, then you're going to have your actual transmitter that you're using for actual other planes, and it's good for building muscle memory. Plus, if you want to add flaps, you can easily add flaps on this. We actually added Crow to one of these 1220s. Rangers, and we have it in our playlist right now if you're curious to see what we did. I can't remember if we filmed the entire process, but I know we filmed a little bit about it. So if you're curious, you can check that out right now. And if you guys have additional questions on this Ranger, is it going to be good for me as a beginner? Is it going to work on a 2200 3S? Well, we already answered that. It definitely flies on 2200 3S. But I wouldn't recommend it. If you're a beginner, stick to the 1300 3S. I think you're gonna enjoy the way it flies better because it's a lot lighter on its feet. It's gonna get off the ground quicker. It's gonna land softer and you're gonna have less problems. But that being said, really good choice, amazing plane. I really like it. About the only thing I don't like about this plane is the fact that there aren't flaps, there aren't LEDs, and there's not a throttle cut. Those are things that can actually be added on all 3 fronts, okay? So great plane, good job FMS. We always love it when we can give a good report about a plane that seems like it's gonna be great, and this thing definitely does the trick. I think for a beginner, it'd be a great choice. We're definitely gonna add this to the beginner list. And we've got a number of different planes that are similar to this, but I'll tell you what, tricycle is a different thing compared to a tail dragger. And there's some advantages, big advantages to tricycles. And it makes it a little easier to land, a little easier to take off, and I think you guys are gonna enjoy it. So check it out in the links of the video description down below. And when you buy them, you'll help support Brian Phillips RC with small commissions from that manufacturer. And you'll also help us to support our relationships with the manufacturers, because when you buy, they'll know that you came because we had mentioned something about it, whether you made the decision and we closed the deal, or we made the decision because you saw our video. The idea is that keeps this ecosystem going because we've done thousands of videos just like this, and we tell the truth about what we find on planes. If we don't like them, we tell you we don't like them. If we do like them, we tell you we do like them. But what we don't do here is we don't do fastest, bestest, cheapest, you know, bluest, greenest. We don't do that. We're gonna tell you what we find this plane to do well and what it doesn't do well, okay? And that's what we hope we've accomplished here in this. Great plane. I think you're gonna really enjoy it if you're a beginner. It definitely fits the bill. But if you're not a beginner and you're an advanced pilot or an experienced pilot and you just want something to throw around as an everyday flyer, other than the ugly nose gear, you will love flying this plane. I really enjoy flying this plane. I like the way it flies. I love flying tricycles, and we get a lot of tail draggers. Let's be honest. You don't get as many tricycles, it seems like, at least not in prop-driven planes. So I'm very happy with it. Love the way it flies, and I know you guys will too. So check it out in the links down below. If you guys have questions, don't forget to leave comments. I'll do my best to get back to them. We have been admittedly slow on those. And if you need to get a hold of us quicker, Patreon seems to be the best way to do that right now. because of the method that the comments come in to me. I can see them quicker. Also, if you join as members, we have some premium status for comment replies. So we're trying to facilitate that. It is brand new, so give us a little bit of grace as we transition into that. We're trying to adopt whatever the new system allows for us to do. We haven't had a chance to play with it much because we just did it. Any other thoughts, camera crew?
Nope.
So, one last thing. If you want a buddy box with this, there is hypothetically some way to do it. I don't know how to do it. It'd be a wired configuration. I'm going to tell you this. If you want a buddy box this plane, it would be worth throwing in an AR620. Keep your reflex in there and just keep it on the cheap side. And then you can use your DXS or your DXE, and then you can use your NX10, and you can pair those up, and then you can have inexperienced pilots flying, and you can buddy box with your computerized transmitter. So really cool technique to get people that don't know how to fly in the air with some level of impunity, because you put them with a pilot that knows how to fly. So definitely worth checking out. If you don't know how to do that, we just did a video not too long ago about buddy boxing and learning to fly, and you can check that out in our videos in the playlist down below. I think that was on the Slow Ultra Stick and the T28 1.1.
Yep.
So if you guys are curious about that, and you can easily adapt this plane to do the exact same function. In fact, if you put a 620 in here, you can add flaperons, but you're going to lose aileron stabilization and auto leveling on one side if you go that route, because the reflex doesn't have a chance to do both control surfaces. You go to 630 or 631, you can go ahead and do full flaperons. But I still think you'd be better off, if you're going to go through that trouble, just go ahead and throw some inboard flaps on here. It's an easy mod. It's going to give you a huge improvement in the flight characteristics. And if you think this thing flew good, wait till you put some inboard flaps on here. This thing is barn door slowed this thing down. You can fly it at like 2 miles an hour. It's so much fun. So great plane. You will love it. Check it out. Thanks for watching, guys.